The tigress emerged from the storm like a phantom, her massive frame outlined by lightning that split the sky apart. Rain hammered the tin roof of Marcus Chen's cottage, echoing like distant drums of war. For 10 heartbeats, those amber eyes locked on his, glowing through the darkness, as if time itself had bent to bring this moment back. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to remember. Marcus's coffee cup slipped from his hand, shattering against the wooden floor. He didn't move. He couldn't. That crescent-shaped scar above her left eye burned in his memory like a brand. His lips parted, whispering a name he hadn't spoken in a decade. Kayla. But tigers don't return. They don't cross 80 kilometers of human territory to find the man who once pulled them from death's grip. His knuckles whitened against the doorframe, his body frozen between disbelief and awe. She took a single step forward, slow, deliberate, rain cascading down her striped coat in shimmering rivers. Then another. Her gaze never wavered, never blinked, speaking a language his mind couldn't translate, but his heart understood with painful clarity. Thunder roared overhead, splitting the night open like the flood of 10 years past. In that flash of light, Marcus saw them, 3 tiny cubs huddled behind their mother's legs, eyes wide with exhaustion and fear, stripes barely visible through the rain. His breath caught mid-air. The scene was impossible, miraculous, sacred. Why had she come? What was she trying to tell him? And how could she possibly have remembered the way back after 10 long years of wilderness, storms and silence? 10 years earlier, Marcus Chen had been a man driven by fire and faith. Fresh out of veterinary school at the top of his class, he shocked everyone by rejecting lucrative city jobs to return to his grandfather's crumbling village in the Western Ghats. His father's words haunted him even then. There's no future in saving animals, son. No money, no respect, no legacy. But Marcus didn't go back for money or respect. He went back for the forest, the same one his grandfather had guided him through barefoot as a child, teaching him to read the language of the wild. He learned how to tell leopard tracks from tiger prints, how to sense storms by watching birds, how to walk softly because humans were guests in nature's house, not landlords. Those forests were dying, acre by acre, and Marcus intended to fight for them. That year the monsoon came early, brutal and merciless. Rivers swelled beyond their ancient banks, swallowing villages in brown, raging water. Homes vanished, livestock drowned. Families fled to higher ground, clutching whatever they could carry. The air smelled of fear and rain-soaked earth. Marcus stayed behind. He transformed his grandfather's property into a refuge for displaced wildlife. Injured deer limped through the gates. Orphaned monkey infants clung to his shirt with trembling fingers. A terrified python coiled around his supply crates, seeking safety. He saved them all, working 20-hour days, sleeping in 2-hour bursts on a cot by the door. In 3 weeks he rescued 47 animals. 47 small victories in a war against extinction. But nothing, not training, not textbooks, not experience, could prepare him for what the next roar would bring. The roar that changed everything. It began with a sound that sliced through the storm like a scream from another world. Marcus had been checking the enclosures when he froze mid-step. It wasn't a leopard's cough or a dog's howl. It was deeper, older, a sound carved from the bones of the earth itself. "Marcus, don't!" his assistant Priya shouted over the wind. "Whatever that is, it's too dangerous!" Her fingers clutched his arm, but Marcus was already moving, medical kit slung over his shoulder, his grandfather's voice echoing. In his head, when an animal calls for help, you answer. Always. The roar led him to the ravine where the stone bridge had collapsed. Below, floodwaters raged, a swirling, muddy chaos of broken trees, rooftops and debris. And there, clinging to a half-submerged log, was a tiger. Young, terrified, magnificent. Her claws scraped against the slick wood, slipping again and again. Each time she surfaced, the current dragged her under harder. "Hey!" Marcus yelled into the storm. "Hey, beautiful! Hold on, I'm coming!" He tied a rope to a banyan tree, wrapped the other end around his waist, and stepped into the torrent. The current hit him like a freight train. Water filled his lungs. The world became a blur of brown and pain, but he kicked, fought, surfaced, 10 feet from her now, her eyes locked onto his. They weren't predator's eyes, they were pleading. When he reached her, she bared her teeth. Pure instinct. Marcus gasped through rain and fear. "I know, you're scared, so am I, but if we don't work together, we both die." He looped the rope around the log, pulling them inch by inch toward land. His muscles burned, his body screamed, but the tiger stopped thrashing. She understood. When they finally reached shore, Marcus collapsed in the mud, still clutching the rope like it was the last thread holding the world together. The tiger dragged herself beside him, trembling, alive. Their eyes met once more, wild to human. And for one suspended heartbeat, gratitude passed, between them like lightning in the dark. "You're welcome," Marcus whispered, and the world went black. Marcus woke to the smell of straw and wet fur. "You're insane," Priya muttered nearby. "She's going to wake up and eat you." He blinked, realizing where he was, his grandfather's old barn. And beside him lay a tiger the size of a small car, unconscious but breathing. They had dragged her there on a makeshift stretcher, using every ounce of strength left in them. The barn smelled of earth and rain, of something ancient and alive. Marcus knelt beside her, hands steady now. A deep gash marked her, hind leg surrounded by smaller cuts. The leg needed stitches. Infection would kill her if he hesitated. He gathered supplies, thread, antiseptic, courage. As he cleaned the wound, her eyes snapped open, amber, alert, calculating. Marcus froze. This was the edge between life and death. "Easy, girl," he murmured, voice calm though his heart was chaos. "You're safe here, I promise." One swipe could end him. Instead, she watched, still as stone, tail twitching once. Permission granted. He sewed the wound, whispering stories about his grandfather, about forests vanishing under roads, about his guilt for what humans had taken. Maybe she didn't understand his words, but she understood his intent. When he finished, exhaustion crushed him. He sat back against the wall, barely conscious. The tiger lowered her head to her paws, her amber eyes still fixed on him, no longer with fear, but with something that looked eerily like curiosity. "You need a name," he said softly. "Something powerful, something that means you survived what tried to destroy you." He remembered his grandmother's tales of warrior queens who fought monsters and kings alike. "Kayla," he whispered. "It means the unstoppable one." Her ears flicked once, and from that moment on, she was Carla, and he was the fool who had saved her. Weeks passed. Kayla's wounds healed, her strength returned, and the wild began calling her back. Marcus watched her pace the barn, muscles rippling under new fur, a queen reborn. He knew what that meant. It was time to let her go. "You know what happens now," he said quietly. His chest ached like a wound. He had prepared for this day, but not for how much it would hurt. Priya stood in the doorway. "The officials need your plan," she said softly. "Tonight," he answered, voice breaking. "The Northern Preserve. She'll be safe there." That evening, he loaded Carla into a transport crate, feeding her pieces of chicken, whispering words she couldn't possibly understand. Or maybe she did. During the drive, she pressed her face against the bars, breathing his scent. "I'll miss you," Marcus murmured. "You gave me proof that what I do matters." At the preserve, he opened the crate. She stepped out slowly, touching wild soil for the first time in weeks. Then she turned to him and waited. Not for fear, not for food, but for permission. Tears blurred his vision. "You're free, Kayla," he whispered. Only then did she vanish into the forest, silent as smoke. And Marcus stood there long after she was gone, realizing freedom sometimes feels like loss, wearing a beautiful mask. Life marched on, because it must. Marcus became known as the vet who had saved a tiger with his bare hands. His clinic grew, his work expanded, and yet the space inside his heart remained shaped like a tiger. Years blurred together. He saved hundreds of animals, built an education center, mentored young vets. People called him a hero. But every award, every headline, every life saved, it all felt incomplete. Kayla's absence haunted him like an unfinished sentence. "Marcus, you've done incredible things," Priya said one evening. "You should be proud." He smiled, but pride and peace were not the same thing. 7 years passed before a call came. A wounded tigress sighted near the preserve. Marcus's pulse raced as he drove through the night. But it wasn't her. No crescent scar, no familiar eyes. He treated the animal professional as ever, but his soul sagged under the weight of disappointment. By the 10th year, Marcus had awards, recognition, and a clinic bustling with life. Yet the memory of Carla lingered like an ache that refused to heal. On the anniversary of her rescue, he returned to the release site. Rain fell as it had that day. He sat on the fallen log and whispered into the mist, "I hope you're happy, Kayla. I hope you know saving you saved me too." He left the forest that day believing closure meant goodbye. He didn't know the past was already walking toward him through 80 kilometers of jungle, carrying a miracle in its wake. The storm arrived 3 nights later, savage and familiar. Rain lashed Marcus's cottage, lightning flashed, and then a roar. That sound, that exact sound. He froze. His heart recognized it before his mind could form the thought. "No," he whispered, "it can't be." He went to the window. Lightning illuminated the clearing, and there she was, Carla, standing in the rain, massive and magnificent, eyes burning like golden fire. The crescent scar was still there, proof enough for his trembling heart. 10 years, and she had found her way back. But she wasn't alone. 3 cubs pressed against her legs, frightened and shivering. His breath hitched. He stumbled for the door, barefoot in the mud. "Carla," his voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. "Is it really you?" She stepped forward, gaze locked on his, and the world shrank to that single connection. Then he saw it, the limp. One cub's leg was bleeding, raw and twisted. The realization hit him like lightning. She had come for help. "Oh, sweetheart," Marcus whispered, "you remembered." Tears mixed with rain as he knelt in the mud. "You remembered I could help. That I would." Kayla made a low sound, soft, pleading. Her eyes flicked from him to the cub and back again. Trust, once given, never truly dies. Marcus reached out his hand, voice breaking. "Okay, let me help your baby. That's what we do, right? We help each other. We never forget." That night, Marcus treated the cub in the same barn where he had once saved its mother. Carla stood guard, watchful but calm, her massive frame shielding her family from the world. The cub whimpered once, then slept. The wound was clean, the prognosis good. Marcus exhaled for the first time in hours, feeling a circle quietly close. As dawn bled gold through the barn windows, Carla rose. She gathered her cubs, ready to return to the forest. But before she left, she approached Marcus. Slowly, silently, she pressed her great head against his chest. A heartbeat shared across species, a gesture beyond language. She looked up at him, eyes deep with memory and meaning. It wasn't instinct, it was recognition, gratitude, a promise that love leaves tracks no rain can wash away. Marcus stood on his porch long after they vanished into the morning mist, hand over his heart where her head had rested. And in that stillness, he finally understood. Saving her had never been just about rescue. It was proof that love, in all its wild and inexplicable forms, is the truest miracle this world will ever know.